I'd like to just talk about some of the challenges, reflections, opportunities that I've had over the years with the force of wealth, the money power, Mahalakshmi, as she is called. I think some of the I think I began, again, from a very humble background with the father, as Pramat mentioned, in the army, in very little money. We had lots of resources, horses and swimming pools and tennis courts, but a meager salary. So I think from my very childhood, it's been very much that money needs to be conserved, needs to be spent thoughtfully, and not just money. I think there were three things my father taught me that I find a resonance in the words of the mother and have been the guiding pillar stones in my own relationship with money. The first, he said to me, is that be conscious of what you have and use it carefully and thoughtfully. So even today, and as a child, he used to make us switch off the fan, switch off the light every time you left a room and you walked in or you walked out. The water, think of how much water you're using. We didn't have, we couldn't afford a battery to run the Jeep, so we would push it and kickstart it, and that's how we started. So simple things, caring for material things, caring for everything that you have as though there is a divine presence in matter. And I think that's become so deeply ingrained in me that whenever I do have the resources, one of the first things I want to do is to create beauty. So, in my life, in the surroundings, in the Gnostic Center, in my house, in the farm, you will see this stamp of beauty. And I think beauty expresses Mahalakshmi. And she is the goddess of wealth. So the first thing is, what do we do with our wealth? What do we do with our money? Do we use it for ourselves and for our own self-aggrandizement? Or do we use it to create something that can be shared by all? That was the first lesson I learned. The second, he told me, and that was when I was much older, and I'd started working with him, he said, never borrow money. Use what you have. If you don't have it, don't do it. So I've kept that very strongly in my consciousness. And often when we've had projects where money has not been there, I said, we won't do it, we'll wait. Or we'll do it in a smaller way. Or, many of these investment bankers, and Monica, this is for you, have been coming to my home to tell me how I should invest, my money. And the first thing they tell me is, listen, don't use your own money. You can do much more with that. Borrow from the bank, the interest rate is only this. It'll treble. Look at the markets. What an opportunity. I'm deeply, since I was last 25, 30 years, been very deeply involved in the markets. And because I've had this in my father's mind, my father told me in the 2001, 2003, the crash of the markets, I don't know how many people came to me and said, this is just double it, treble it. I said, buddy, there's a door, walk out. I'm not doing anything of the sort. I'm not going to borrow anything. I have this much, I will invest it, but I will not borrow. And this has possibly been the greatest advice I've received. Because if you take the power behind money, the force of money, it comes to you for a purpose. It is not there to make more money or to just keep, creating wealth for no reason, because that's when it leaves you. I think the idea that when the force of money is there for a purpose and you are a trustee of it, and therefore the responsibility that one has in that trust, that you are not, does not belong to you. It is there today, it may leave tomorrow. And you are certainly not going to find a way of taking it to heaven. If anyone has, share the secret. And so therefore, what is this wealth for? And what do you want to do with it? These were questions that were deeply, I think in my mind. I was constantly thinking about these. And we'll take those up later, some of the ideas that did come there. The third thing I want to say, and which is the last, is no interest. My father, when he started the farm, there were such, people from Rajasthan, the Saises, the grooms, the staff, from very poor families. They would come here and work. And I remember I was just about 21 years old. And he would tell me, Ameeta, just see what's happening. I give them their salary, and all of them go to this one shop, and they're paying the interest of the money they've earned, and they've got nothing. So he saw this in the workforce, in the farm. And he said, from now on, if you want money, you will come to me. I will give it to you interest-free. And he told me, never in your life charge anybody interest. Till today, 30 years later, Usha Stud Farm runs in the same way. Anybody of my staff wants money. They come to me and I said, no interest. Then he said, let us start a langar. Let us give free food, free accommodation, because see, all these sharks are taking away their money. So the importance of making sure that the employees that work for you prosper and grow, and their wealth increases, and they prosper, because if they don't prosper, you won't prosper. And this idea that interest is something that is something that we don't need to be. At least in my life, I've kept that as the third cornerstone of the lessons I've learned, and it's always held me in good stead. So firstly, I think it's important to understand how consciously we live our lives. How conscious are we in understanding and reflecting on the choices we make in our life. I've seen that, when one is unconscious, one tends to use money for vital satisfaction, to buy yourself something, to do this, to do that. And after a while, you see that when you buy something or you purchase something for yourself or your family, most of us look at money as a very personal possession. And I think that is part of the unconsciousness. Because as long as you look at money as a personal possession, it tends to possess you. When you can look at money impersonally, as a force that is there in the universe, that you can open yourself to, that you can come into relationship with, but you need not allow it to you need not allow ownership of it. I think this ownership is something that we need to deeply become conscious of, because it's the very nature of money. It's the one thing, when we come to money, you see all of us, our true natures come out. The smallness, the meanness, the withholding of it. And yet, when we want to spend it on ourselves, we do it with great liberality. And we never think that it might not be enough. And that, we are spending too much. We can give and spend for ourselves very liberally and for our children. But how do we do that when it comes to the other? Whether it's society, whether it's whatever, something that is not related to yourself. So this ownership of money is something, the first point of becoming conscious. The second point that I have experienced and felt is to understand and that there is no lack, there is no, what should I say? There is no lack of money, because it's a force, you see. So when you understand and you have developed this conscious relation with it as an impersonal force, and not ownership of it or ownership, because you actually, then it owns you, then you realize that there is no lack of money to do anything. And when you realize the plenitude that that brings to your consciousness, then your whole consciousness changes. You begin to see things differently. You begin to have, pray almost, you could say. Often I pray to the Divine Presence, tell me what I should do. Let me not be unconscious in my actions, or even in giving money, and even in receiving money. These are very important things. You see, we must be open to a higher power that then begins to almost purify our own consciousness and our own relationship. So the sadhana aspect, if you want to be a true trustee of money, and you want to be a recipient and a channel for it, then you need to become more conscious about how you use it, what it does to you, what your thoughts are, your unconscious thoughts. Become more conscious of those. Then only can you start developing a conscious relationship with money. Fear and money, and also in a way that does come to what you were saying about how much is enough, and can we really know what is enough and for ourselves, and also this idea about when you spend lavishly on yourself, then you actually, a lot of people are benefiting from your lavish spending. So there are a couple of things. I mean, these things have also occurred to me when I've spent, or I've seen some families spend lavishly on weddings and or whatever it might be, that okay, there is at least some collateral, what should I say, benefit from it, but it's not a question of justifications, and it's not a question of seeing things from the outside. I think the question of when you have a topic like the money force or the power of money to lead a conscious life, it's about yourself. It's about understanding first when you spent whatever you spent, not about seeing others. When you spent the money, did you feel that you spent it consciously, or was it an unconscious spending? And that only you can tell. I don't think anybody else outside you can know that fully, or even can judge that fully. So the first thing is about going back to your own consciousness. And when you see, we all can feel, when something is done unconsciously or for total self-aggrandizement, and when it is done for a larger good. Now, the fact that even if one is doing things for oneself, there is still a benefit, is the way the nature works. This is the evolutionary work of nature, that whatever one does, even from the the most unconscious acts, something and someone is benefited. But that does not mean that you can then justify that unconscious action and say, see, because it's benefiting that fellow's, the caterer who's bringing so many tables, and shamiyana wala, and the chai wala, and the jalebi wala, so I should continue doing this. So I don't think it can be a justification, but however it does, everything has its own way of benefiting something. So, yeah. And I think this is also to do somewhere at the end on the fear, money and fear. Money is deeply rooted. This sense of, there's a deep relationship between fear and money that we all have, whether we are conscious of it or not. See, all these things that we are all seeing. And it's something that even on a personal level, I felt it in myself. I mean, constantly, that okay, when I turn 100, or 120, which is possible, because I can't think of my life being less than that. But, when I turn 120, I possibly won't have enough. Maybe I won't be working, maybe the farm won't be going, so what will I do, how will I sustain myself? So these are fears. First of all, call it out. Don't try and hide behind, what should I say, don't hide behind all these things. So when you call out things as they are, then you can address them in the way you want to address them, in the way that is correct for you to address it. Security. Money is a deep relationship with security, deep relationship with fear, and also deepest relationship with faith and trust. Now, those who have this sense of abundance that you spoke about are those that generally live in a higher state of faith and trust than of fear. Those who have the sense of scarcity live in a higher state of fear and distrust than they do of faith. But these are questions for each of us to ponder on.